I'm Roger Dingledine, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about an extension to Tor that we're working on. So the basic idea is, right now, there are lots of people all around the world, including in China, who are using Tor, and they're happily connecting to the Tor network. They're getting their anonymity, their privacy, their security, their censorship resistance, whatever they want to call it. But what would happen if various governments or corporations decided to actually filter connections to the Tor network? At that point, it doesn't matter how good Tor is, because you can't get there. You can't get whatever properties it provides. So our goal is to add a little bit of extension to that, and I'm going to talk you through what we've got now, what we need to add, how it works, stuff like that. So there's a lot of material we can talk about. Feel free to jump up and down and ask questions in the middle if I say something that totally makes no sense, because probably somebody else didn't understand it either. So I'm going to give you a crash course on Tor, talk a little bit about what the goals are and what our assumptions and threat model are, who we're actually trying to protect against, what Tor offers now, a bunch of different current solutions that are out there that we can build off of and maybe steal some really good ideas from. And then what are the actual components we have to add to Tor so that we can build a good system, and then all the other messy things that show up when we try to take the theory to the practice. Okay, so big picture for Tor. We're a free software system, freely available, open source, unencumbered by patents. You can get it and change it and give it to your friends. It comes with a full specification and full documentation. This is really great because a lot of researchers have now said, okay, I'm going to do some research on anonymity systems, and this Tor thing already says exactly how it works, so I'm going to start there. That's the thing I'm going to do my research on. It also means that a couple of other researchers around the world have built compatible Tor clients, and it turns out that we found some security bugs in our spec while they were doing that. So I heartily recommend multiple implementations if any of you are still uncertain about that. We were also chosen as the anonymity layer for the European Union's PRIME project, which is a big 30 million euro prototype how you would do privacy in online communication. And they picked us as sort of the bottom layer. Whenever you want to talk anywhere, you should use Tor, because once you have your anonymous credentials and your anonymous other things, it doesn't matter if you're broadcasting who you are while trying to do fancy crypto on top of that. So we've got some number of users. It's an anonymity system, so it's a bit hard to count exactly how many we've got. But it's somewhere on the order of a few 100,000 people are running Tor clients right now. We push a little over a gigabit per second of traffic, and we've got a capacity of somewhat higher than that. How many people in here saw Mike Perry's talk in the last session? A few hands, but not very many hands. Okay, so I'll try to give you an overview. Also, various magazines have decided that we're cool. A couple of years ago, PC World magazine picked us as number 40 out of the top 100 products. I think we beat out Wikipedia, we beat out the iPod. I think this year they've picked us as one of the top 25 products you've never heard of. So I don't know if they never looked at their previous issues of the magazine or what, but there are various magazines that keep talking about how interesting we are. Okay, so a little bit of background in terms of who cares about this stuff. One of the fun things about working on Tor is the diversity of users out there who care about it, and we try to bring all of them in to the same network. So when I talk to my parents and grandparents, I don't work on anonymity systems. Anonymity systems are sort of weird and technical. I work on privacy systems. And when I talk to businesses, Google, Walmart, stuff like that, what do you say? Never mind. When we work on businesses and Google and Walmart and stuff like that, we work on network security. We work on communication security. Because anonymity is scary again, and they don't want that privacy stuff, but they do need their communication security. And then when we talk to other organizations, maybe the Naval Research Lab or military or something like that, we work on traffic analysis resistant communication networks. And that's, again, a big word, and they don't care about their privacy or their anonymity, but boy, do they need to resist traffic analysis. So part of the fun of this is bringing all these different groups together. Some of them want their privacy, some of them want their security. You need to put them on the same network so that they can blend together. Another part of the fun of Tor is the diversity of funding that we've gotten. We've been funded by the Naval Research Lab, DARPA, the DoD, the military complex. We've also been funded by the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and more recently our funding comes from another government group, which is nearby to Voice of America and Radio Free Asia and Cuba and Europe and stuff like that. They've got some websites in the world that a lot of their users can't reach. and they'd like to fix that, and we sure wouldn't mind fixing that. So that's a little bit of what I'm talking about today. Okay, so a little crash course on how you get your anonymity. The easy answer is you put a computer up there somewhere, maybe in San Diego, and you route all of the users to it, and each user shows up and says, hey, I really want to load indiemedia.org, or hey, I really want CNN, hey, I really want Voice of America. And then the proxy, the relay, goes and gets them and hands them back. And the idea is that Bob over there doesn't know which Alice has asked for the question. So that's very straightforward. This is how most commercial anonymity systems work. Maybe you use encryption between Alice and the relay so that nobody can snoop on that. But the big problem is what happens if the big central point of failure turns into a central point of failure? Maybe you go threaten the CEO, maybe you get a job as the janitor, maybe you send them a subpoena, maybe you just walk in and take their computer. There's so many different ways that a central point of failure can fail. So the goal for Tor is we want to distribute the trust. We want to make it so that you step over several different relays, and no single relay knows about both Alice and Bob. So maybe the first relay is bad. He knows that Alice is using Tor, but he doesn't know what she's doing. Or maybe the last relay is bad, and he knows that somebody's talking to Bob, but he doesn't know who's talking to Bob. And maybe they're both bad, in which case, if you went to the earlier traffic analysis panel today, you will learn that we're probably screwed. If you're able to watch both edges of the connection, then you can do some traffic correlation attacks. You can say, hey, wait a minute, I saw a stream over here that looks like this, and I saw the same stream over here that looks like this. I'm pretty sure that these two people are talking. And since we're trying to be fast enough that you can browse the web or instant message or something like that, then we've got no defense against that. So the way that we have our security is by growing a large enough network that not very many attackers are going to be in the right places to see both the beginning and the end of the circuit. Right now we've got 1,000 servers on 5 continents. So as we grow, there will be fewer and fewer attackers who have the resources to be in the place to attack both sides of the circuit. Okay, so that's a crash course on Tor. And there's crypto and stuff to it. I'm going to skip over all of that. Yes, question? We're missing Antarctica. I don't think we've got any satellites.
No, 6, 7, right?
Africa. We had a node in South Africa every so often, but bandwidth is really expensive there. We also had a node in Namibia or something for a little while. I don't know whether they have internet there, but there was a server there. It was pretty fast for a little while. I think it was at like Kilimanjaro University or something. I don't remember where it was. Maybe Kenya. But anyway, what?
I see one node in Africa.
Oh, good.
In Morocco. In Casablanca.
Morocco. Well, today there's a node in Morocco. 6 continents. Excellent. Okay, and there's crypto behind it, which I'm going to skip over. Feel free to ask me afterwards. Okay, so what are we talking about today? There are a lot of different ways that you can block connections to the Tor network. The easy way is there are directory authorities that tell you who's in the network, and there are 5 of them. Users use them to bootstrap. You go fetch those 5 IP addresses, you filter them, and you're done. Or you go fetch the directory, and it's got a list of 1,000 IP addresses, and you filter those, and you're done. Or you look at the network fingerprint. You say, good thing those guys follow all the protocols, and they write in their little SSL transaction, hey, this is a Tor transaction. And then you just look for the signature that looks like that, and you block that on your IDS. So there are a lot of different ways that can be done. So our goals are to address all of those. Step 1 is try to figure out how to get a lot more relay addresses. So there aren't just 5 addresses out there that you can block. And then normalize Tor's network fingerprint. We really want to make it look like an ordinary SSL connection or Skype or something like that. We're still in the research phases in terms of which protocol we want to try to blend in with best. And then also solve the discovery problem. That's what I'm going to be talking about a lot today. How does the user in the blocked area find something to relay through? How do you get your first connection? And then the challenging part, don't screw up our anonymity properties while we're trying to do all this. Okay, so what sort of assumptions are we looking at here? Another way of looking at that is what's our threat model? So one of the fun things about working on blocking resistance or censorship resistance is if you go back through the last 5 years at DEF CON and BlackHat, especially DEF CON, there are a lot of people trying to solve this problem, and they don't know what the heck problem they're actually trying to solve. So they sort of say, well, imagine that the attacker is a superpower with $1 billion, and they really, really care. Now what do we do? And then they end up saying, well, gosh, I guess I can't do much. So we're trying to describe the situation as it is right now, and hopefully we can take advantage of that. Okay, so first step, try to defend against a pretty strong attacker. We could say, well, let's hope they don't care. And that would work for the first while, but then they might start caring, and then we'd need a better solution. So we're trying to work on that better solution here. So we've got a lot of users in mind, maybe people in Thailand, people in China, people in Indiana who can't get certain US websites. Maybe we care about whistleblowers and corporate networks, and we really want to be useful in the future also. Who knows what the next oppressive situation is going to be? It'd be nice to already handle that. And attackers are going to be in different stages of the arms race. Maybe one of them subscribes to Smart Filter. Maybe the other one has 30,000 people working very diligently at finding every bad URL on the internet. And maybe some of them are in between. Okay, so what do the attackers want to do? They want to restrict the flow of certain sorts of information. And there's sort of two classes of this. One of them is embarrassing information, human rights violations, corruption, stuff that they don't really want published about their organization. And then the other one is opposing information. Maybe somebody's trying to organize protests or movements or something, and they really want to make sure that information doesn't get out there. Or they can actually just chill the behavior by giving people the impression that they're watching what's going on. They don't actually have to go find all the people talking about rights violations and make them stop. They can just give you the impression that they're doing that, and most people will self-censor. Most people will say, well, I'm pretty sure they're watching me, so I'm not actually going to publish this thing, even though maybe I should. Another point, complete blocking is not a goal. It's not even necessary. All you have to do is find the ones that are quite popular or quite useful and shut those down, and then you can really focus on the last 7 people who are still using some sort of system. So you don't need to do complete blocking of all bad things on the internet, and you also don't have to shut down every single circumvention tool. You just have to focus on the ones that are popular and effective, the ones that work, have lots of users, and the ones that are highly visible. If they have New York Times articles coming out every week saying, such and such project declares war on China, then China's going to notice and they're going to have to react, not because it matters, not because they actually have to block it, but because they need to have the appearance that they're blocking it. Okay, another question, maybe some goals they have. An assumption that we've been making from talking to a lot of people there, if you're just reading something on the internet and you happen to get through the firewall, for example, they didn't filter it yet, then that doesn't matter. They're going to say, oopsie, and they're going to add that URL to the firewall. That's all that happens in practice. On the other hand, if you're publishing things that they don't want you to publish, then they are going to look a lot closer. They're going to try to track you down and figure out what else you're doing and try to discourage you from doing that. And then another assumption we might make, censors have economic, political, social incentives not to block the whole internet. This is a big question every time we ponder censorship systems. If we force a government to unplug their whole internet connection, did we succeed or did we fail? If we take the arms race that far, is that a success or a failure? And in our case, the assumption is that they're not going to do that. They're not going to be willing just to shut off the whole internet. And that's true in a lot of countries, and it's not true in others. In Burma, for example, I think you can be arrested for owning a modem. So that's going to be